So it's also a different technique of driving. So I just keep testing myself.
Max!
Sim racing.
Sim racing.
It's all about preparation, strategy as well.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze.
When I'm on the simulator, I'm also flat out.
Slow motion, yeah. I feel like an astronaut in the ocean.
This is Max Verstappen, an F1 world champion in real life and also a sim racer. But a lot of people are saying that Max Verstappen is a dirty driver. He keeps getting in incidents in real life in Formula 1, tangling with drivers like Lando Norris, and it also is happening in his sim racing. Now, because Max is a sim racer, we can actually look at his telemetry, we can look at his footage, and we can decide for ourselves, is Max Verstappen a dirty driver or not? Now, some of the footage you're going to see here is from a charity race. It's really worth bearing that in mind. This is 23 hours older, so definitely check out the link in the description. Make a donation if you can. It's a great cause. But you can see Max Verstappen here just making contact with this red car. Now, there is a thing in iRacing called netcode that I want to let you know about later on in this video. But firstly, look at where Max has positioned his car. He is over the white line on the right-hand side. He is sort of digging a line in the grass. You can even see the dirt kick up. But does Max actually make contact here? This is netcode. So if you look really slowly, you'll see that it looks like there's actually no contact. So sometimes it might be that Max looks like he's a dirty driver, but actually he is an incredibly precise driver going for gaps that just exist, as Ayrton Senna said, and he's being undone by netcode that makes him look like a dirty driver. Look what happened behind here. Absolute chaos. And this might be similar in real life. You might think Max is going for gaps where he's not quite being given the space. He's a really precise driver. He's comfortable going over the white line. He's comfortable going on the grass as well. But you definitely have to give him that space. And actually, I've raced Max Verstappen, and I'm not someone who gives other drivers a lot of space, just as in my racing DNA if you see me on this channel, and you'll see what happens on that later on. This is the same corner here, though. Now, there's definitely no netcode that time. There's no gap. That's nothing to do with the server or the software. And it looks like Max is kind of, well, at first glance, on a sort of rampage. Let's have a look at this from his perspective. You can see that when he gets on the brakes, he has a big moment of oversteer. Is he trying to avoid the car in front? Has he made a mistake? Was he too aggressive in approaching that corner? And is this something that we're seeing from Max Verstappen in Formula 1 increasingly, where he's just recklessly, some people are saying, throwing it up the inside and not thinking about the consequences? Again, look at the mess that he's left behind. This is from Max Verstappen's actual sort of viewpoint in the car. You tell me in the comments, what kind of gap is he going for there? This is a multi-class race, by the way. The other cars are Mazda MX-5s. He's in a Chevrolet prototype with a lot of downforce. They are not required to get out of the way. So these cars are racing in their own category. They might be racing for the win. And you can see the car there they've got turned into. He's just going for an overtake himself, or should that Mazda be more aware? I don't know. It often comes down with Max. He puts the other driver in a position where they need to do something differently to avoid a crash. And you can see here, I personally don't think there's anything the Mazda could have done differently. They're entitled to go for that overtake, but I could be wrong. I'm a racing driver. I have my own perspective on things. And you can see Max Verstappen here. He's not going to wait, by the way. He is going to crack on because he's actually racing the blue car on the left-hand side, and he wants to make sure he gets that overtake done. Here's another instant here. So you can see Max Verstappen, you can spectate all of this and see in the software. It's amazing. We are so lucky to be able to see this. Again, really severe consequences there. And I think this comes from another habit of Max's. He never wants to lose time. Like in Max's world, it's Max's universe. Sort of everyone else on the track is kind of an NPC, I would say. What can he do here? There's a clear answer for me, which is he can wait. He can wait, he can lift, and he can make sure he gets that gap on the right-hand side. In the end, you can look at the rev bar here. He's basically still accelerating. You can see right above the wheel, he is not decelerating. He's not on the brake. I mean, the proof would be the pudding here. If you look at the brake lights, kind of look at the momentum of the car. So it's a difficult scenario for someone like Max because he doesn't want to lose any time. I'm not saying he deliberately pushed this car out of the way. I'm saying he took the gamble that it might have just parted for him like Moses, And on this occasion it didn't, and he knew that he had momentum and he was probably going to be okay. Not so lucky for the driver. At night time now, Max Verstappen in the race, he's in P5 in the race, so he's really trying to catch up here and make good lap time on other drivers. And this one is pretty insane, because if he wanted to go in the pits, I think he would still go into the pits, especially with that kind of damage. So what Max Verstappen is doing here, I'm not sure. He brakes nice and early, as if he's going on the left-hand side. It looks like the car ahead has a moment, but I'm not sure. It's a surprising one, this one. This is something that I see a lot in rental karting. When I go down to the kart track and I'm kind of watching people who are out before my race, I'll see that if they have an instant ahead, they'll slam on the brakes, lock up and hit the car ahead. And this is a very unusual instant. Even Max's decision making here to turn right is an interesting one. Was he actually trying to sacrifice his own race here to go to the right hand side and avoid the crash and got unlucky? I don't know. There's a lot of force, by the way, that can come through a direct drive steering wheel if you have a big crash like this. And I spoke with the inventor of Max Verstappen's steering wheel, Martin Asher. There's another video on my channel on that, and hopefully he's okay with these sort of things, because you don't want him to get injured in sim racing. But on the one hand, difficult to explain this one. Not saying it's a Kimi Villacini-esque punt, but it looks kind of reckless. Maybe he was actually going for that pit lane, but it doesn't add up fully because he was on the brakes earlier. Also a night stint as well. These kind of things can happen. So moving on to the next footage here, it's not always Max's fault. And this is an important one for F1, because people often say, oh, it's nearly always Max's fault when there's a collision, it's a racing incident. Have a look here. This might be an element of revenge. It looks like a similar car that Max might have taken out earlier or been in this with earlier. He turns in here. This car steaming up the inside. I place absolutely no blame on Max Verstappen here. But I wonder if some people in the comments, some of you watching, will think maybe he shouldn't have turned in. By the way, if you're new here, please do subscribe. I do a lot of videos like this on my channel in sim racing and real world motorsport. You can see here from the rear view, the Mercedes, is it going for a move on the Mazda, or is it going for a big move on Verstappen? Kind of hard to tell. Verstappen looks like a little bit there. He stops turning in, but there's almost not much you can do at that point, because I don't think, ironically, that Mercedes was going to hit the apex or get to the apex first and stop and not go off the other side of the track. You see Max Verstappen's livery here, memeing Lando Norris as well. Back in the night time here, and you can see again Max in P5. He's chasing a couple of Chevrolet prototypes here. Going to try and go through the middle, gets that done. A Mazda moves over. He does brake, he does check. Again, a lot of cars going on, and oh my goodness, what do we think about this one in the chat? Remember, this is, again, this footage here is from a charity race. It is about raising money for charity, but Max still takes it seriously. He won last year, which I'm going to show you footage of last year in an interesting moment. But going around the outside here, and you can see the car on the right hand side, the 666, goes over the curb. I don't think Max is at fault here. You could say maybe he squeezed that car to the right hand side, but he is getting in a lot of incidents. And we are seeing in F1, Max also getting a lot of incidents. Maybe he's getting to a stage of his career where he just doesn't care too much about that. He's kind of doing things in his journey. So again, at the rear view, is he squeezing the other car? No, I don't think so. I think the other car should have backed out. It's interesting we talk about other cars like that backing out, but we don't often say Max should have backed out himself. Now, this was a very interesting one, and I think is not something that's obvious at first glance. Obviously, Max doing some mad overtaking moves. It is multi-class, and at first glance, it looks like nothing's happened, and we can see a car again on the right-hand side. It looked like an AMG. So he overtakes a GT4 there, Aston Martin, another GT4, and another GT4. He's in the middle, and it looks like nothing's happened, but did Max run a little bit wide to the white line? And this is something that's coming up for Max a lot in Formula 1 at the moment. So let's take a look here. Is he able to make this apex, or is he compromised by the car on the right-hand side? He's on the brakes, on the brakes, on the brakes. This is a difficult one, but do we think like a driver of Max's caliber should be able to thread this needle here? Because there was actually just about enough room, I think, to give the car on space on the outside and also overtake this car you can see on the right hand side. A difficult one maybe that the helicopter is going to make super clear, or should the car on the left hand side actually have backed out? Again, Max is forcing an issue here. Max wants to move forward. He's not going to wait like some other drivers would have done, just wait before the corner and say, you know what, I'm going to let all this go. He wants to lose as little time as possible because he knows that's the only way to win this race. Now, I do have some personal experience of this with Max Verstappen because I've raced Max Verstappen myself. In fact, if you look at the yellow Mustang ahead, that's me driving with my name on the back of it. again, in a slower class than Max Verstappen here this year in an Aston Martin. Now, this is going to really show you what I mean by Max Verstappen not waiting, but I think he's changed on this. I really do. So he tries to overtake me around the outside, but unfortunately my Mustang just doesn't have the downforce, and I can't really do anything by that stage. I tried to back out, I tried to touch the brake, but that's just going to make me understeer more. And the moment Max decides to overtake around the outside, it's inevitable that there's going to be contact. Arguably, he's not foot on the brake as well, so we end up crashing around and spinning some more. But I think Max Verstappen has changed on this. This is Max on the right-hand side. It is Max. I just don't have trading paints running at that time. And you can see that presented with almost the same opportunity. Maybe he's learnt from the incident with me. I don't know. And this time he decides to chop inside. And look at the Aston Martin, where the Aston Martin goes. Max last year would have been in that space, but this year it looks like he's getting smarter. So Max Verstappen also may be learning from sim racing, and we'll see that go into Formula 1. Again, in the daytime, it's still P5 in the race. He's getting a lot of black flags because you can donate incredibly to give Max Verstappen a penalty pit stop, and that raises a lot of money charity, which is great. Coming up the inside here, I think this is the classic Max move. So we're going to have a look at this, and we're going to think about apex, and we're going to think about whether he's going to make the corner. If you remember Max Verstappen on Lando Norris in Circuit of the Americas this year in Formula 1, similar things. I wanted to show you Max's point of view. You know, from his perspective here, he's got momentum, he's got a big car, he has not been slowed down at all. It's a win for Max Verstappen in that sense. But when we slow it down here, would we expect the car ahead to back out of this move? Does the car ahead even know? Max is definitely ahead, inverted commas, at the apex. I think he's also going to make the corner. There's no question that he's going to run wide. He didn't. And it is a multi-class race as well. So really let me know in the comments what you think about this incident. Does Max have any blame there? Or is that just good, strong driving from Max and it's the other car that's at fault? I'm going to show you the rear view from this car as they turn in. And Max is there. I don't think they're trying to make contact at all. It's almost like a surprise. And if you have a look at the steering angle, it's always a telltale sign if someone's applying a lot of lock. You can see here they're applying a lot of lock and understeering. So they really need to turn in at that point. Otherwise, they won't make the corner. They don't have the luxury of kind of running wide. They don't have the downforce. This is where Max Verstappen is actually leading the race. So he's leading this 23-hour race right here. And that is just, for me, one of the most black and white moves I've seen. I don't know whether the Mazda could have done anything differently here, but it looks like a slam dunk from Max's position. Let's have a look. If you're the FIA, are you giving a penalty for this one? So he's clearly going up the inside, but it is such a late move. Remember, think of the apex. Think of who gets there first. Does Max get to the apex first? Well, he's on the apex, but I think the answer is no. This is different to the one we saw before with the, I think it was a Holden. This time, he's put the Mazda in a really difficult position. The Mazda really doesn't know what to do, I think, here. They'll be aware that Verstappen's coming. They'll see it on the relative. Tries to go wide and still ends up getting taken out. It's not even clear that Max was going to make the corner there, to be honest. Let's see it from the point of view of Verstappen, like last time. Dives up the inside. I think at this point he'll know that he made a mistake, actually. And if you could put your hand up, or maybe if you keep him on the radio, that time it might be clear. If you're going to send this one to the stewards, I think this is a shot that you'd show. He goes over the sausage curb, which means that he loses even more braking ability. The Mazda goes round, might be a bit more chaos in the background as well. And you can see he's in a race. He really wants to keep his position here. So that's Max Verstappen, potentially that competitive edge coming out. This one's a difficult one for Max. He's coming into the last hairpin at Zolder. Now, I feel like you could predict that that was going to happen on the exit. It was all going to get bunched up. There's just physics when you think about it. So look at the Corvette in the same class on the right-hand side, overtaking another blue Aston Martin. What can possibly happen here on the exit? It's already going to be 2x2. So Max Verstappen is trying to make it 3 wide. And to be honest, I feel like he's naturally going to run wide. He might have ended up hitting the Aston Martin as well. For me, that one could be called a reckless move. We'll have a look up the inside. It's a great move if it comes off. I feel like if he executes that move better, he arcs in a little bit from a wider angle, opens up the corner, gets a nice exit, runs along the grass on the right side of the track. It's a genius move, but unfortunately, I don't think he's pulled it off. So if he started a little bit wider, maybe sacrificed a bit more speed here, hugged over the curb a bit, maybe got on the ridge, he could have got this done. So maybe this is a high stakes move from Max. Maybe he's trying it here. It looks like it might even be for position if you look at the cars. It's a move he might try to see what would happen in Formula One if he can try something like this and pull it off. He is a driver now who's starting lower down the grid of Red Bull, so these sort of instances are going to happen more in F1. So by now you'll be used to Max Verstappen's driving style and you'll recognise here it's an opportunistic move. Again, is that an unfair move? It looks like he might also incredibly give the position back, which is not something that we often see from Max Verstappen, braking a very similar time to the car ahead. So he's going to really try and, I guess, roll off the brakes here. Keep an eye on the brake lights. He's going to try and be applying less pressure, turning in more trail braking, but he goes side by side with, it looks like maybe Tony Kanan's team there, who's an IndyCar champion, won the Indy 500, hasn't he? But again, squiggly on the brakes. Look how hard he is on the brakes there. That is a strong move. I'd say that's a touring car move. And maybe if that is Tony Kanaan in the other car, maybe Max pulling rank a little bit there or aware of the badge. Salute the rank, not the man, if you remember Band of Brothers, and gives the position back. Turn one again. Max just, my goodness me. That again, if he pulls it off, he looks like a genius. How does he look like a genius? If the pink car doesn't turn in. Max forces the pink car here to basically make a decision to alter their line. Max is kind of hell-bent on getting to this apex first. He is ahead by the point they make contact. Again, I'm very interested to know, would you put the blame on this instant on the pink car on the outside on the Mercedes or on Max Verstappen? Does he get the credit for getting to the apex first? This is Max Verstappen's view. I mean, you can just sense here, look at the way he tips it in. He's going for that gap. He's going for the gap in between. That's, the position of opportunity. And let's just make sure who gets the apex first. It's definitely Max Verstappen gets the apex first. But it's almost inevitable there's going to be contact. And again, I want to emphasize charity race, so it's all for charity, but he is a competitive person. And we're so lucky here to see Max Verstappen, a multiple F1 world champion, driving in iRacing, in sim racing, looking at his inputs essentially in the cockpit, looking at the way he drives, and just seeing this. It's so incredible. And the fact that we can race against Max Verstappen is a madness. Not sure about this one because it's pretty obvious he's coming out of the pits. So he's obviously not the person to wait around. But I want you to let me know in the comments, what do you think about these incidents? Who's at fault? Is it Max or the other driver? Please make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Your support is incredible. A subscription absolutely free and helps me out. So exciting to see this. And please check out this other video I did of Max. If you enjoyed this one, you'll enjoy that one. And I'll see you next time.